Kum Len and Ablat Gemara. Today's daf is Daf Samach Beis Amid Beis. Samach Beis, and we're up to the Mishnah on Beis Amid Beis, which the Mishnah is a continuation, or we started off that women and avodim also have the laws of Naziris as opposed to a goy. And we said that by a woman, a husband, once she becomes a Nazir, he cannot in any way interfere into Naziris other than being Mayfair and annulling in the first, the day that he heard it. But when it comes to an Eved, even though he's a Nazir, the master can tell the Eved, I want you to drink wine because I want you to be strong. Now the Mishnah says, there is, however, a stringency by avodim over women, and that is, the husband has a window that he can annul the wife's neder. And when he annuls the wife's naziris, she's no longer nazir. Either they divorce or he passes away, it doesn't revert back to naziris. But he can force the Eved while he's a slave because the master owns his nefesh. He can force him to drink wine, but the neder is still hanging there in the cloud. If he is set free, he has to continue Naziris, and whatever days he observed so far, he keeps it as a credit, and then he continues until he completes his Naziris. If he's made for his wife, that's it. Annuls the Nazir forever more. But if he annulled his Eved and the Eved goes free, he has to resume his Naziris until he finishes his term. That's what we learned. Lama Rabbi Koifel in Naziris. Why is it that a master has the right to cancel the Naziris not cancel, but to force the Eved while he's a Nazir to drink the wine? But if the Eved, for example, makes a neder, he cannot force him, for example, to breach his neder. What's the difference? Especially the pasuk we learned from is actually from neder. It says by neder, it says lesser on nafsha. We said only if you have control over your destiny. No, so what's the difference, nazir or net or stam neder? So the Gemara, only if you have control over yourself, only then do you have to retain all the laws on nazir. And Eved is not a control over themselves. The master is, so the master can interfere. It's actually from the pasuk Nadarim. So shouldn't the rule be the same? That the master has a right to say, "You may neder meat will be forbidden. I want you to eat meat." What's the difference? Rav said, we're talking about a case here where it's not really going to affect the health of the Eved. And why isn't it going to affect the health of the Eved? Keep going. Let's say there's a cluster of grapes right in front of the Eved, and he makes a net that he won't eat fruit. So the master cannot tell him start eating from the grapes. What's the difference? By a nazir, he tell the nazir, I want you to drink wine, eat the grapes. Not here. What's the difference? If he says this cluster of grapes are forbidden to me, he can only eat other grapes. So if you're concerned, if the master's worried, tell him eat some other grapes. By a nazir, he cannot eat any grapes. If he's a nazir, he's a nazir. A nazir cannot eat from grapes, any part of the grapes. But if you make a neder that these grapes on the table are forbidden to me, fine. Go get grapes somewhere else. So there's an alternative, there's an option. Therefore, that's why he cannot force him to eat the grapes. You can't say, "Oh, you're getting weaker." Give him an alternate source. Or the Gab in Nazidus, when it comes to Nazidus, the Chimitze Bahai, Itze Bekula. Even if he clearly stipulated, "I want to be a Nazir from these grapes," you already learned before that if you're Nazir in part, you're Nazir in everything. So therefore, Matzikafla, he can force him. Says the Gemara, where does it say that by Nadorim is talking about a case that only these grapes are forbidden? The Gemara doesn't include all cases, even the case where, let's say, this is the only grapes available, and still the master cannot interfere. Now, L'chayda over there, what's the difference in that in the case of a Nazir? L'chayda, the master can tell you are becoming weaker. I want you to eat the grapes, and you just banned these grapes, and there are no other options. So the if you won't eat these grapes, you'll get weaker. What's the difference of Nazir? I'm worried about the grapes, you get weaker, and therefore I have a right to tell you eat the grapes. And by a neder, even if these are the only grapes available, I cannot ask you. Elam Rav Zerabah. Keep going, we're talking about you're right. When it comes to grapes, the master does have the right to interfere. But you're talking about here, there was a chartzim. We had a machlekes before. The chartzim is the pips or the skins. But whatever it is, it's not an important part of the grape. That's all he has. Gabledorim Bahai, who the mitzvah must kafle. By Nadorim, he's only forbidden with these chartzen. He cannot force him because you can eat regular grapes, you have to eat the chartzen. You can eat grapes, so therefore you're not going to get weaker. But by Nazir, the Itzlamachini must kafle. By Nazir, even if you say I don't want to eat, I'm being a Nazir from chartzen, you become a Nazir in everything. And therefore, by a nazir, the master can argue you're going to get weak. I'm worried. I'm concerned. But when it comes to a neder grapes, he's not worried.
Something else.
Sorry. Let's say the master is convinced that grapes gives you certain, maybe makes you happy, and you become in a good mood. Whatever it contributes to your obvious. Says the Gemara, because we say a general word nedarim and we make no distinctions. It sounds like even in a case where the chatz somehow or another gives this person some fortitude or some, good feelings, and there are no other ones available, and still the master cannot interfere. The Gemara maybe talking about a case where there is nothing else but this chatzin, and sometimes that's the only thing that will give him his vigor and his strength. And if he won't eat this, he gets weaker, and still the master cannot interfere. So what's going on here? Why by neder can't you interfere, and why by nazir the master can say, "I want you to drink wine"? Ella Omar Abai, actually most Yisraelis are Rava, or Eli Omar Abai says Lama. Rabbi Tzarich Lichvaisei Linazidis ain't Tzarich Lichvaisei Nedarim. Ain't Tzarich Lichvaisei. You know what it means? Not that the master cannot interfere by Nedarim. The other way around. By Nazir, the master has to interfere. By Nedarim, he doesn't have to. There's no neder in the first place. No, by Nazir, the Nazir makes a neder. The Ebed made a neder to become Nazir. He becomes a Nazir. But the master, the right say, I don't care. I want you to drink wine. But when it comes to neder, there's no neder at all in the first place. Or by shvu, or by a vow, there's no vow at all. Why not? The ain't tzarich lichvaiseh. Lindarim, the ain't it's lindarim. The ain't tzarich lichvaiseh shvu. By nazir, the master wants to drink wine, he has to force him. But when it comes to neder, he doesn't have to force him. The guys, you don't have a neder. You don't have a shvu. Why not? Because there's a certain criteria when it comes to nedarim. My time, it says in the pasuk when it describes a shvu, it says lahora lehetiv. If you make a vow, either to harm or to benefit. Ma hatova rishus. Just like when we say over here hatova, it's the benefit it's optional. Af and to yourself. Af hara rishus. Also the hara you're harming. You're talking about yourself. I'm not going to eat. I'm abstaining from food. That's harming yourself, but it's to me. Yotza lahara la'achedim. When you do good, you told myself as well, I'm going to eat this. So you're doing a good thing. It's about me. So when I say I'm not, I'm refraining from eating, it's about me. But when it comes to harming someone else, if through my neder, I'm going to be harming someone else, and the neder is not a valid neder. I cannot make a neder. And if he makes a neder, he's not going to eat grapes, he's harming his master. If in any way it impacts on him, it's not just him, it impacts his master because the master owns him. So there's no neder, there's no shura. That's what the Mishnah means. You don't need to annul the neder shura because the idea of lesser al nafshe comes from the pasuk of neder. Next Mishnah. What happens? Over Mikeneged Panav, the Ebed fled, ran away. He made this neder to be a nazir, and then he fled. Rab Meir says, while he fled, he should not drink. In other words, he should now keep his naziris. His master has no control over him. And the Gemara is going to think we're talking about a sugya we haven't gotten of the Mal, we'll learn soon, where if somebody makes his Eved Hefker, does he still need a bill of divorce? We're talking about an Eved Kanani that you actually own. Since he fled, he's no longer around. You still need a bill of divorce or not? Shmuel says, if you made your Eved Hefker, I said, I don't want you anymore. You don't have to give him a bill of divorce. And we're assuming that Yush and Hefker is the same thing, which we'll learn in Tyson and getting there whether it's so Baba Kama Maruba. But we understanding that if the master abandons hope of ever recovering that Eved, he'll never return. It's as if you made him Hefker. And therefore, if you made him Hefker, and I don't need to build a boss, he's a free man. You got to keep the laws of the Naziris. So Rameir says, that's it, you're a Nazir, you can no longer drink wine. But Rabbi says Yishta, which sounds like he argues with this principle of Shmuel. He says, no, you still need to build a divorce, he still belongs to the master. So therefore the master has the right to tell him, you don't have to follow your laws of the Naziris. Said the mother, there's very argument with Shmuel. I'm not going to if you make your head, but Hefke he goes free, so to get shich, you don't have to give a bill of divorce. I made hold the Shmuel, and Rabbi doesn't hold the Shmuel. Said the mother, no. Kuli Alma, everyone says, east of the Shmuel, everyone agrees with Shmuel. That he does not need to build divorce. No, he doesn't need to build divorce. So how come? So Meir says, you're a Nazir. How come Rabbi Yossi says that no, that you're not a Nazir? We're talking about the case over here is that the Balbos was not Meyayish. So therefore, the Balbas still owns it. Balbas still owns it. It says, therefore, the Balbas can make him drink. No, so why does that mayor say that he shouldn't drink? He should follow the rules of Nazir. So the master has every right. He still belongs to the master. So mayor says it's a penalty. What do you mean? Elamando Yishta, the one who says Yishta, that's Rabbi Yaisi says, Soiv, Meder, he's going to go back to his master, and he'll go back to him. At least the Chamri, he should drink wine because the master wants to be full, full strength. Shouldn't get weaker. Okay, somehow the wine gives it full strength, vigor. So because he still belongs to the master. But Manda Yishta, May says he shouldn't drink his because since he still belongs to the master, but he's a Nazir, he's bound by the Naziris, he cannot drink. Therefore, he misses the days that he was able to drink and so on and so forth. And this is going to force him to go back to the master so the master can tell him go drink. Let's force the guy, make the guy as uncomfortable as possible to be, to be on his own. That will in itself will cause him to go back to his master. Which I don't really understand because if it really bothers him, he can't really want to go be mataneder. Where does it say that an Eved cannot be mataneder? Unless it's some din. That an Eved cannot be mataneder. Where does it say that?
What's the Evid's interest to keep mitzvahs? He ran away.
He's never Kanani and he's a ger. Whether he likes or not, he's a ger. And he'll get if he's warned by Adim, he'll get malka. If he drinks wine, and two people saw him and say, "Hey, remember you're a nazir." He has no brainer.